Hey, how are you doing? I'm Vasco Duarte, your host on the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, and I've got some exciting news. So, right now, as I record this, I'm holding in my hand the signed contract for our very first Global Agile Summit. We're all in, and I couldn't wait to share this news with you. So mark your calendars, May 18th to 20th of 2025 in Tallinn, Estonia. We're going to have a transformative experience. We're putting together an event that it's all about real-life Agile. It's not theory or buzzwords, it's practitioners sharing what's working, what's making an impact, and how they've overcome challenges that you too will have to face, or maybe even facing right now. We're bringing together the best stories in Agile, from product leaders to engineering wizards to business visionaries. These will be stories that will inspire you to action. This isn't just another conference. It's a chance to connect with the people that are shaping the future of Agile. And here's the best part. Right now, we're in our super early bird phase. And that means you can grab tickets at just 25% of the final price. Look, that's not just half off. It's half off of the half off. It's an incredible deal for our dedicated community members, just like you, listening to this right now. So at the summit, day one will be all about hands-on workshops. And days 2 and 3 will dive into leadership, product strategy, coding, testing, and everything that makes Agile thrive in organizations right now. Remember, these are all first-person, real-life stories. Now, whether you're a leader, a developer, or part of a consulting company, this event is built to take your Agile game to the next level. So don't wait. Go to globalagilesummit.com and grab your ticket today. Let's all make 2025 the year Agile truly transforms your teams, your business, and our industry. I'll see you all in Tallinn. And remember, go to globalagilesummit.com and get your super early bird ticket right now. It will only be available until the agenda is announced. So don't wait. Grab it right now. Right, now that that's out of the way, on to the episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome to one more week of the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. And this week, joining us from the beautiful half continent of Canada is Alan Grove. Hey, Alan, welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm delighted to be here.
So Alan is a skilled business agility coach, trainer, facilitator, and helping teams and leaders foster collaboration, productivity, and meaningful change. With expertise in Agile, Scrum, Lean, and systems coaching, she partners with diverse organizations from startups to global enterprises to navigate complex challenges, build resilience, and drive impactful organizational transformations across all departments. So, Alan, that was a short intro. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and how did you end up becoming a Scrum Master?
Well, so my background, my technical background is as a software tester. And I was working in a team that had started off as a startup and been absorbed a couple of times by larger companies. So we really had that mentality of we do everything ourselves. We work very collaboratively. We weren't seriously doing Agile, I will say, but we were working in a lot of Agile ways. And then the big company came out with the announcement that from here on in, all teams are going to use the same way of developing software. And I don't know what I did to irritate my boss, but I was the person from our organization who sort of got tagged to be part of that organizational conversation. And I was like, we can't work like that. It doesn't make sense. We have to get serious about what we're doing. And that's at the point that we decided, okay, well, we're going to try and use Scrum as a framework rather than doing whatever works for us. And so I went off and did Scrum training a gazillion years ago with Jeff Sutherland, which was really interesting. And took my boss and my boss's boss, and that was the start of our organizational transformation. So I ended up being the Scrum Master for my team, or sort of the development team that I was managing. And then I complained I didn't like the job our Scrum Masters was doing, so I ended up becoming a Scrum Master as well. And that was how I started on this journey. Now,
So
that was a
tell me
long
one
time
thing.
ago.
This harmonized way of working that the bigger company wanted to institute, was that Scrum already, or was that something else and Scrum was a reaction to that?
Scrum was the reaction to that.
Okay,
The
yeah.
big way of working was something that was suitable for, I will say, teams with hundreds of people who released things every few years.
Okay.
And we had teams of, I think at that point, our team was 20 people or so, and we were releasing stuff to customers every 6 months and working on a much more frequent cadence. I mean, these days that's a really long release cycle, but this was back in 2000 something when dinosaurs still roamed the earth. And,
Indeed. Dinosaurs and waterfall, they were here about the same time.
indeed.
All right. So, of course, that sets the context of where this, I guess, familiarization with agile and agile thinking came from. But of course, as Scrum Masters, we don't always succeed at what we try to do. Surprise, surprise. And there's nothing wrong with that, because if you're not failing, you're not trying, right? And what we want to focus on is what you learned from that experience. So, Ellen, tell us a story of a moment where you, as a Scrum Master, you did your best. As it so often happens, sometimes the best just isn't good enough. So tell us that story. We'll dive into the details later.
So when the time where I sort of felt the most personal failure as a Scrum Master was a couple of years after that initial experience, when I was I was started as the Scrum Master. I was working, it's a little hard to be anonymous about this, so I'm going to say the post office. And it was very, very early days for the post office to be thinking about agile. And I was on a project that was quite revolutionary in that it actually spanned two companies. Half of the team worked for the mothership, half of the team worked for a different company that was the development partner for the mothership. And I will just say it was a very complex organizational culture. Very, very complex organizational culture. And I went in all keen. We were going to scrum all the things. It was going to be the best project ever. And while there were lots of little successes in terms of how we were able to bring the team together, it was a really difficult situation. As I said, challenging organizational culture where you had around the team, there was not a lot of support for what we were trying to do. There were a lot of organizational impediments. And it was one of those, so one of the Scrum failure modes is Scrum is designed to surface all the problems you have in delivering things. And the way the organization can react is go, oh, that's great. Let's start solving those problems. Or the failure mode is, oh, look at all the problems Scrum is causing. This is terrible. We didn't have those problems before because we didn't see them. And this project went down that path.
Ouch.
And it was...
How did it manifest? Was it like in the daily meetings, things were coming up, or managers were kind of interrupting? Like, how did that resistance to accepting that Scrum was uncovering rather than creating the problems?
I'm going to say the resistance was actually coming from outside the team. Within the team, everybody was like, yeah, we know this is a problem. This is our daily battle. But it was the people around the team who were like, oh, but this is terrible. We didn't know about all of these things before. Mm-hmm. Clearly, working with Scrum is the problem. And so that was very demoralizing. And the failure as a Scrum Master for me was, it's not that Scrum failed. It's that for me personally, I found this situation really, really difficult to be in because I was kind of naive at the time about I could just show people the light and everything will be great. They will realize this is a sensible way of working. Scrum is doing what it should in terms of surfacing the problems. We'll all band together to fix them, and life will be wonderful, all unicorns and rainbows. And needless to say, people have their different agendas and different concerns and different problems that they're trying to solve. And so while we were able to make some changes locally for the team to show success at working across that company divide and putting things out more frequently, we weren't able to make any kind of significant change. And the emotional toll was incredibly difficult. And so I think of that as a failure because of the stress that I took on. I was seeing it as my responsibility for trying to make all of this work, rather than recognizing that as a Scrum Master in the organization, I can help try to create the best conditions, but I personally am not responsible for that. There are other people who have a role to play too, and I can't take on their burden.
That actually brings in a very interesting topic, which we will talk about again on Wednesday, which is this idea that as Scrum Masters, we need to take the responsibility of becoming change agents, because we can't change things. We can only help others change what they think they need to change, right? And the specific aspect of Scrum surfacing the problems that the team was facing is a great example, because you can't force the team to solve anything. They need to want to solve it. And you can't force the managers to accept that the problems are indeed there and they do need to be tackled. They need to want to do that, right? And
exactly.
it kind of brings in that aspect, which is kind of the creator, meaning Scrum Masters need to become the creator of awareness and the facilitator of change, but not the changers, right? We can only help others change.
Yeah, we can only help others change. We're not the sponsor of change. And a phrase that has popped up a lot in my recent work, where I've been working more as an Agile coach than a Scrum Master, but is you can't care more than the team does, the organization does. And it's not that you shouldn't care, but you can't become attached to results that are beyond your control. And I think that's a lesson that a lot of Scrum Masters struggle with, because when you find yourself in that situation, when you're realizing, oh, I can't fix all the things. One of the Scrum Master failure modes I've seen is that people try and exert more control over the situation, which is kind of antithetical to what the role of a Scrum Master is.
And also counterproductive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a great point, and I think you really described it well, and I think that phrase has a lot of depth. We shouldn't become attached to results that are beyond our control.
Yeah, but it's a hard lesson to learn. It's a hard lesson to learn.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Ellen.
You're very welcome.
We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.